Good morning, everybody. I have one thing to say. Happy Father's Day to my wonderful husband.
Thank you, dear.
We got married when my little girl was 5 years old. And I married him more to be a daddy to my daughter than to be a husband to me. I just thought I just have to have a father for my little girl. And he was wonderful. He took her right in like she was his own, and they're very close to this day. So happy Father's Day. I love you.
Thank you, too. Thank you.
Now, what are we going to talk about today, Mr. Bernhardt?
It's another parable we're talking about. We're just about to run out.
I don't think you ever get done with parables. I'm beginning to wonder.
3 or 4 more to go, then we're finished with the parables. But anyway, today we're talking about the parable of the unjust steward. And that's in Luke chapter 16, verses 1 through 13. And we'll get into that here in a second. But all of these parables were written for a purpose, for Jesus to help the people he was talking to understand what he was trying to tell them on a level that was on their level, basically talking about things surrounding them that they're familiar with and all those kind of things. So anyway, that's why there are so many parables, because there's so many teachings in them. But anyway, later on, I'm also thinking about going back to the teaching on healing that I did
that's his specialty.
2 or 3 years ago. But
besides that, we both need some healing right now. We both got pains in the same place today in our very lower back.
Everybody is in need of healing for some reason.
That's right.
We live in a sinful world, and then because of that, we have all these aches, pains, and all these other things that God never intended for us to have to begin with. But man sinned, and this is what causes all this mess to happen to begin with.
Very true.
Won't get into that subject because that could get pretty long. But anyway, I think I will do that in the next month or so. And it takes 2 to 3 weeks, maybe 4. I don't know how long it will take, but anyway.
Yeah, some of our subscribers want you to do it by yourself. They want to get rid of me. That might be a good time to do it.
No, we're not going to do that.
All right, let's start in Luke 16, starting at verse 1. Jerry's reading out of the King James, and I'm reading out of the Living. And I realize that the Living isn't exactly the same as the King James, and other versions have missing little verses and stuff. But still, just this morning we were reading this, and he's like, well, what does this verse mean? And I read it over here, and it totally made it understandable. So, go ahead, babe, you start.
Okay. Chapter 16, verses 1 through 13. And he said also unto his disciples, there was a certain rich man which had a steward, and the same was accused unto him that he had wasted his goods. And he called him and said unto him, how is it that I hear this of thee? Give an account of thy stewardship, for thou mayest be no longer steward. Then the steward said within himself, what shall I do? For the Lord hath taken away from me the stewardship. I cannot dig. To beg I am ashamed. I am resolved what to do, that when I am put out of the stewardship, they may receive me into their houses. So he called every one of his Lord's debtors unto him, and said unto the first, how much owest thou unto my Lord? It's hard to read.
See, I'm telling you, the King James is hard.
It is sometimes.
These and the thous.
And he said, 100 measures of oil. And he said unto him, take thy bill and sit down quickly and write 50. Then said he to another, and how much owest thou? And he said, 100 measures of wheat. And he said unto him, take thy bill and write 80. And the Lord commended thee. This is what's nuts here to me. And the Lord commended the unjust steward because he had done wisely. For the children of this world are in their generation wiser than the children of light. And I say unto you, make to yourselves friends of the mammon of unrighteousness, that when ye fail, they may receive you into everlasting habitations. Then in verse 10 it goes on to say, he that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. And he that is unjust to the least is unjust also in much. If therefore ye have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who will commit to you trust the true riches? He said, who will commit to your trust the true riches? And if ye have not been faithful in that which is another man's, who shall give you that which is your own? No servant can serve two masters, for either he will hate one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon.
That's right. But that is extremely confusing, in my opinion.
Well, this is Jesus talking to those people.
It's like they're rewarding the man for cutting everybody's debt in half, and that can't be right.
That's what I said. It's a little confusing.
We'll see what this version says, because I've only read verse 10,
I understand the last part of that very well. But
See, that's why I read these other versions. And then it makes that version understandable, because some of you only do King James, and that's the only one you like and think is honest. Okay, this is the Living Version. And this is Jesus talking. Jesus now told this story to his disciples. A rich man hired an accountant to handle his affairs, but soon a rumor went around that the accountant was thoroughly dishonest. So his employer called him in and said, "What's this I hear about your stealing from me? Get your report in order, for you are to be dismissed." The accountant thought to himself, "Now what? I'm through here and I haven't the strength to go out and dig ditches, and I'm too proud to beg. I know just the thing. And then I'll have plenty of friends to take care of me when I leave." So he invited each one who owed money to his employer to come and discuss the situation. He asked the first one, "How much do you owe him?" "My debt is 850 gallons of olive oil." What's a lot of olive oil? The man replied. "Yes, here's the contract you signed," the accountant told him. "Tear it up and write another one for half that much." "And how much do you owe him?" he asked the next man. 1,000 bushels of wheat was the reply. "Here," the accountant said, "take your note and replace it with one for only 800 bushels. The rich man had to admire the rascal for being so shrewd. Or do you think the rich man commended the scoundrel for being so shrewd? Now, why did they say that twice? Verse 8, the rich man had to admire the rascal for being so shrewd. And then in parentheses, or do you think the rich man commended the scoundrel for being so shrewd? What's the difference between admire and commend?
Well, it says here in verse 8 in King James, and the Lord, not God.
The employer.
Or Jesus. And the employer commended the unjust steward because he had done wisely for the job. And
it is true that the citizens of this world are more clever in dishonesty than the godly are. Yeah, literally sons of the light. But shall I tell you to act that way, to buy friendship through cheating? Will this ensure your entry into an everlasting home in heaven? Literally and probably ironically. I don't know why these little parentheses are in this version, but they are. Make to yourselves friends by means of the mammon of unrighteousness, that when it shall fail you, they may receive you into the eternal tabernacles. Some commentators would interpret this to mean, use your money for good, so that it will be waiting to befriend you when you get to heaven. But this would imply the end justifies the means. an unbiblical idea. So that's just someone's comment stuck in here. I don't know what kind of Bible this is, but it has extra stuff. Verse 10, no, for unless you are honest in small matters, you won't be in large ones. If you cheat even a little, you won't be honest with greater responsibilities. And if you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches of heaven? And if you are not faithful with other people's money, why should you be entrusted with money of your own? For neither you nor anyone else can serve two masters. You will hate one and show loyalty to the other, or else the other way around. You will be enthusiastic about one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. So we're both still confused. We don't know if the guy that cut everybody's bill in half is a superhero now, or if he's not. I mean, that's a good way to make friends, no doubt, but
Yes, but he's using his Lord's money
to do it.
that, basically. So he's cheating his Lord.
I know.
And then it says right in here in verse 8 in my Bible, and the Lord, not Jesus or God, but the Lord,
The employer.
commended the unjust servant because he had done wisely.
What does commend mean? Is that good or bad?
That means he commends something.
Yeah.
That means
Is that a good
give
thing?
them praise.
You give them praise, okay.
Commend.
I thought maybe it meant you fired him.
Like commendation, for example.
It doesn't
A
make any
reward.
sense.
You reward, whatever. And I say unto you, make to yourselves friends of the mammon of unrighteousness, that when ye fail, they may receive you into everlasting habitations.
I don't understand it.
If you all understand that totally,
Tell us what
Tell
you
us.
think. Maybe we need to go get another version.
but anyway, I get the gist of this whole thing.
I don't.
The man is,
Well, it says number one, the unjust servant.
yeah, unjust.
So he can't be just.
You know, and his Lord heard it too, some rumor going around that his accountant was,
Yes, to
You know,
start with.
bad.
To start with, yes.
yeah. But anyway, the last part of it is what I totally understand.
You can't serve two gods.
You can't serve God and mammon both.
Right.
And it's very easy in any day and age to serve mammon because you spend at least 2/3 of your life
Making
trying to
money.
make mammon, okay, for whatever reason, you know, but what it's referring to here is your love of money, basically, is overriding your life when it comes to godly concerns. In other words, paying tithe, for example, is one example of that. So many people don't pay tithe. It's not really a commandment, but it's mentioned several times in there, in the Word, about that being a blessing to you when you do that. And it's in Malachi 3:10. You know, there's also what you do with the mammon you do have, you know, because how can you really help someone? Okay, let's say that you don't tithe and you don't do all that kind of stuff and you're not blessed from the Lord financially. You really can't help anyone other than talking to them, basically, you know, about something that they may be doing wrong or whatever.
And if you're doing something wrong, how can you minister to anybody else? You're no better than they
And
are.
everybody sins, you know. I mean, everyone is born into sin. Everyone sins.
No, I don't mean that.
I know, but
But I mean, if you are doing your best to serve the Lord as you know to serve Him, and you are paying your tithe, and you are going to church, and you are helping the poor and the needy, then you are an example to someone
That is true.
who is
But-
lost and not like that.
when you say
But to just say, you should do this and you should do that, and you don't do it yourself.
no, but how do you help the poor and needy? Most generally, you help the poor and needy by giving them funds or
Right,
buying
exactly.
something for them or doing something for them.
Exactly.
There's a lot of other things you can do with, you know, helping them and doing whatever, but when it comes right down to it, you have to have mammon to live in this world. I mean, you know, money is mentioned, I don't know, like 3,000 times in the Word. It's very important to God. That's the way you survive, basically. You can't survive without money, and neither can poor people, regardless. And they're called poor people because they don't have any amount.
Oh, Jesus said you'll always have the poor.
You'll always have the poor, but that's how you can help. What it's talking about here is don't use your money to spend on yourself. I mean, there's nothing wrong with spending, obviously, the money that you work for on yourself, but don't put yourself first. You should put God first in that situation and do what is told to do by the Lord in His Word. Take care of that situation, and then God will take care of you. You know, it's like the old golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's the same thing with God.
Well, the man asked Jesus, what's the most important commandment? And he said, number 1, God. Number 2, others. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Pretty simple. In that, all the commandments will be fulfilled.
Right. Push comes to shove, you have to manage the money that you make righteously. You have to be just in what you do.
Hope some guy will come around and cut all your bills in half. That'd be nice. And he'll be commended by his employer.
That's what confuses me.
Hello, this is the electric company. Would you take your bill and tear it up and make another one for 1/2? Hello, this is the company that just came out and chopped your dead trees down. Would you take your bill and tear it up and just make another one for 1/2? I would commend that guy. I honestly do not get this, y'all. So I know some of you are really, really good in the scriptures, and so, you know, Jerry and I aren't teachers. We're not. We just love we just love God and we love the Bible, and so we read it. And sometimes we understand it, and sometimes we don't. But you can always do a whole lot more study. You know, there's a million things on the internet where really good preachers and teachers will talk about this very scripture, and that'll help give you some more insight on it also.
But you have to be careful about that.
Yeah, you have to make sure they know what they're talking about.
Well, I mean, there's people that will lead you astray too in a lot of this stuff. You just have to, really what you have to do is before you start doing all this, reading the Word and all, ask God.
Yeah, the Holy Spirit.
For wisdom when you read His Word. Ask God to give you wisdom. That's the first thing you need to ask for.
I get wisdom from God to know what preacher and what teacher is talking correctly. Dwayne Sheriff, for one. John Hagee, for another. There's many out there. Billy Graham. How many have there been? There's a lot of so-called ministers out there now that are just, give me money, give me money, give me money, and it really bugs me. It bugs me just as much as it bugs y'all. Oh, I had one lady that, I don't want to say her name, but she's in a very high position right now, was telling people, the Lord's telling some of you to give me $1,000. Oh, that just goes all through me. The Lord isn't going to tell her
That's right.
what He told you. The Lord's going to tell you. And if you got any sense, you'll figure out that lady's not the right person you should be listening to, and you'll go find somebody else. That's just, you know, Queen Joy version. So
That's what that's what you call wisdom in the Word, you know. You think those things through, you know. Those people are just trying to raise money for their own benefit, basically. You know, yeah, they will, you know, there are a lot of needs out there. I know that money will solve the problem up to a point. But you got to be very, very careful about who you give money to, you know. Because there's a whole bunch of people out there, and they are supposedly Christians that are asking for money.
yeah, I think there's going to be a long line of them where Jesus says, I never knew you. I really do.
Yeah.
All right, babe, we need to end this. We weren't very knowledgeable today, but I'm fixing Sideburns his favorite dinner tonight. Pork chops and macaroni and cheese, homemade. But right now, the grill is over in the barn on a trailer because we brought it back from our other house, and it's pouring rain outside. So
Yeah.
we may be cooking the pork chops under the broiler tonight.
I've got one other thing to say.
What? You can't. It's Father's Day. You're having the rest of the day off.
I realize that, but I'm in charge right
Your
now.
brain just won't stop.
Anyway, the scripture in 10, and it says, he that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much, and he that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much. If therefore ye have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who will commit to you your trust? Who will commit to your trust the true riches? And if ye have not been faithful in that which is another man's, who shall give you that which is not your own, which is your own? What he's talking about there basically is you give unto, and it's in Malachi 3:10. Look it up and read it.
It says Luke 16.
I know that, but I'm talking about this right here.
Huh.
If you have little to give to the Lord as your tithe or whatever, that's how you know, God tells you in His Word that I will give unto you the power to obtain wealth. To most people, wealth means money of some sort or another, whatever. And if you're not faithful in the little, in other words, if you're not willing to give Him $1, $5, $10 or whatever it is, or $10,000 or $100,000, whatever, God will give unto you wealth if you give unto Him first. You know, you need to learn how to do that.
Well, does that mean there's no rich people in the world except Christians?
No,
No.
that does not. That does not.
No.
And
There's an awful lot of
honestly,
extremely wealthy people.
there are, but you don't really know what they do in their own personal lives either.
Well, yeah, we do.
Well, some.
So, we've got to just talk about Christians and their hearts for the Lord and for others, and just know that there's an awful lot of rich people in the world, and it's not because they're Christians.
I know that, Joy. I know that.
So,
But I'm just saying that is how God gives you wealth with happiness. Okay? That's my version of it. I mean, give unto the
if
Lord.
you're trusting God for your finances, yes.
That's right.
But if you are trusting God for your finances, you've got to ask Him for wisdom, and then you've got to be wise in how you handle the money that you have.
That's what I'm saying. Give unto God first. You know, and He will take care of the rest.
And then what are you doing with the rest of your money?
Well, the rest, He only requires 10% of it.
I know, but He requires you to have a brain for the rest of the money that you got left over.
You need to be a good steward of your finances.
That's right, because there's not only tithe, there's also living and giving, and so.
That's true. There's a lot of other things, but I'm just saying.
Well, we're just going on forever. We have got to stop.
Anyway, we hope you all have a great weekend. Happy Father's Day to you fathers out there. And we will see you again sometime. I'm not making any promises at this point.
Yes, owning 2 homes now is making it a little hard to keep a schedule of any kind.
Getting older and making doctor's appointments more and more frequently is also hard to control.
Physical therapy, we're both doing physical therapy.
Well, it's just stuff that we've gotten from moving and backaches and
being ancient.
being older. You know, everybody knows those things. You get more aches and pains when you get older, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, we'll call it a day. Y'all have a blessed week. We'll see you again.
Bye for now.
Bye.